How are we doing, folks? It's been a while, but jobs get in the way. A few more bits done. I've dropped the engine in. It's only a dry build, so it's not fully tightened in. It's going to come out because the frame's got to be shot blasted and painted. Finished off the extended my cable for the RM21 alternator. That's now going to run up forward up the frame and across, and also the wassail unit is in, as we did in previous video anyway, but what I've done now is I've put a little plug inside here, so if you ever want to take the engine out you just unplug it and that cable will run up the frame with the alternator cable. So those bits are in. I've had a play around with a clutch, and I've found a clutch cable that does the job. Bit of modification here, made a little adapter to change the length of the outer because it wasn't correct. And I think this was the cable that came with a bike, but yeah, not sure. But anyway, it's on, it's adjusted, and it's working, and it feels quite nice. So I'm happy with that. Fork wise, I think we did all this previously, because we did the fork legs, didn't we? So I've now got this 21-inch front wheeling. I think it's off a Honda or maybe an XL or something, but the good thing about this is it's actually got a speedo and speedo cable, all front wheel stuff. So definitely Japanese Nippon Seiki. I remember that from my teenage Honda days on all the clocks, rev counters and speedos. So that's going to go on. So what I've done is I've made a little template out of a bit of Weetabix or something, I don't know. So that will mount on there. I've got the little rubber mount as well, and I'm going to go off here, so the speedo is going to sit about there somewhere. So I've got a bit of alley for that, bit of 2mm alley. Front brake. So this is where it gets a bit, I've struggled a little bit with this, trying to find a cable. However, I did, in the box of bits, got this thing, and I think it's off a B50 or a later 71 on B25, because it's got the brake light switch built into the cable. So I proposed to use this. So what I'm going to do is, obviously this down here is for a barrel nipple, and this has already got like a little clevis on the end. I'm going to cut the clevis off because it's got the little small ball underneath soldered in. I'm going to make an adapter to fit in there, like a barrel to ball adapter. Then I've checked the thread in this collar, adjusting collar here, and I've got an M8 bolt somewhere which I tried it with. So this is an M8 bolt, and that will actually screw into there. So I plan to drill down the centre of the bolt, be 2.25 or something, the cable's 2, so if I go 2.25, then I'll slice it 2mm so I can get it onto the cable. Then that will give me the adjustment down here, and also I've got the adjustment on the standard steel ball end levers, so that should work out okay. Excuse me. I've also found in one of my boxes of junk, I've obviously done the headstock bearings, so I made those adapters to get rid of the ball races for this later B25 B50 headstock spindle. So the taper bearings are in. I made the little collars to change the sizes so I could get those bearings in, and the bearings actually come with oil seals built in to the inner race which seal on the outer race. But I did find this, so I know the B25s and the B50s and the later B25s have this anyway, so that's going to go on there. It's just a dust shield, not needed, but it'll cover up where you can see where I've made the adapter sleeve for the bearings. New tyre, obviously, 21 inch. Quite pleased with all the front end now. Couple of issues handlebar wise. I wanted to use the original handlebars, and I think these may be also Japanese, or I wouldn't think they were off a UK bike. So they're machined for the switches in these places, so they can run the cable works up the bars, which is quite nice. But because they've machined such a large amount away in the middle, they've actually put this sleeve on the outside to bring the strength back, because obviously that would be an extreme weak punch over that leverage. Probably not as important down here because you've not got the leverage from there to there, but definitely they had to put that on. But what that meant was, now these bars won't fit these later yokes, because this adapter sleeve or strengthening piece in the middle is wider. It intrudes anyway into the handlebar mounts. So let's treat myself to some new handlebars. These are supposed to be copy B50s. I don't think so, but yeah, good chrome on them. They look nice. They are the same overall width as a B50, so give you a nice bit of control with the leverage you've got with the length of the bars. So yeah, they'll be okay. And now the headlight, or the headlight mount. So I saw these aluminium headlight mounts on Fleabay. Somebody had bought them and they obviously wouldn't fit or whatever. I think these are about 40 quid or something. I think I got them for like 8 quid or something. Couldn't resist. Obviously you get like a different adapter sleeves with them, so you can put them on different size forks. These forks, obviously Imperial, weird size, and they're like, I don't know, 35.6 or something. But and these were 40. But I had a bit of aluminium tubing thereabouts, so I just had to turn the outside down a little bit, slice them, and then just open them up so they fitted on the chrome and they go in here quite nicely. So when I tighten the outer up, because I've got the slice in here, the slice will close up and grip. So they're gonna go there. And the headlight, I fitted a 5-inch to the B50, which is a really nice little light, and I fitted an LED inside, keep the power down. But I struggle because I'm only going to bring one cable up the frame, up the spine, so there's quite a lot of connections that would be made inside the headlight, because you've got the dip and main beam horn, and also I always normally fit a kill switch, so I need at least 5 cables running back into, so that means I've got quite a few connections in the headlight, so treated myself. Let's just spin this round a bit, use this as a bench. This is a 5.5 inch. Oh, nice and shiny and all. So yeah, that's going on. So I just need to make some adapters to go there, because obviously this is a lot smaller. So we need to make something up to space that off, and I think that's going to work quite nicely. With regards to the rear light, it's already done. Again, I purchased one of these, another flea bay purchase. Daytona and 150 Bunny. So that will fit quite nicely on the back. So I'm going to make up a few adapters for this to space this off. I've already done the wiring for this. I'll make up the cable. I'll make up my aluminium bracket for this. Unfortunately, got to drop the forks leg down again to get it. Oh no, take the bars out to get that on. But I've got to take the forks off anyway, because I don't want the forks on while I'm painting the bike. And the last thing was, I've actually welded some stops on here a little bit longer to reduce the steering angle, because the travel was quite large. And I've got a choice of 3 tanks. So I've got the original steel, bloody heavy things these are, the original steel big Starfire tank, which, you know, even though it's quite nice, you know, don't think I'm going to be using it. I also got this thing. It's not a new one, second-hand one. This is off a Spitfire, but they're quite a long tank and they don't have the cutaways inside for the wide frame, so that's not going to go on, or it might go on with a lot of messing around. But what about this? Nice little Fleet Star tank, steel, and this will match this frame because it's got the cutouts in the bottom. So that's for another video, the tank and all, and the seat. But we'll crack on and make these few bits for the front end and get the front end finished. So I'm just going to make up and turn up these spacers to fit in here, make the adapter for the front brake, fit a few bits on, see what it looks like. So we'll be back soon. How are we doing, folks? Probably only seconds for you because I'll be stitching these videos together, but quite a few days have passed for me. I had a rush job on and then I had another rush job on straight afterwards. So all clear now, everyone's happy, so now time for a bit of playtime for me. So yeah, that was our template we made for the Speedo. So I had to remove the bars to fit it, and there was a fibre washer under here, obviously for the seal for the oil. I don't think anyone would ever get up that far, but obviously now the gasket is the aluminium support bracket for the Speedo. So that turned out quite nice. So I put a little bit of a bend in it to bring the angle up, and it's rubber mounted. So the cable, I've just found a P bracket which I'm going to use. So the P bracket will go and hold the speedo cable like that, so it's rigid at that point, and the flex will be in this S as the forks move up and down. So it should work out okay. I haven't put a bolt in there because even though I've got a bolt, the threads won't clean it out. I think there'll be a UNF or UNC, but anyway, that's simple enough task. So the speedo's done, and I give the wheel a spin, and yet needles going up and down. Don't know how accurate it is, but it's 21-inch tyre on the 21-inch rim, so there's no reason why it shouldn't be fairly accurate. Not that it makes that much difference for green laning, but it's done. So the cable, brake cable, was the next. So we had this cable came with the bike, and I wanted to use this one because it's got the brake light switch in it. Then I don't need to bother with the back brake light, and we're going to design the wiring harness to be as simple as possible. So I'm going to send power up to the headlight. I'll be picking the feed out from the headlight into the switch, and then back down the frame to the back light, because obviously the side light and the brake light and the earth I'll just carry all the way back straight into the back light that I showed you last time. And I've already fitted a little plug on there ready, a 3-position plug, so it'll just be a piece of 1mm squared 3-core from the headlight down the spine straight into the back light unit for the stop and rear side light. So that's why I wanted to use this cable. So I cut the clevis off, and I was just going to slice it on one side and get the cable out, but it's quite brittle material, actually crystalline where it snapped, so I hardly put any force on it to get the cable out after cutting the groove, and yeah, it just split in half. Anyway, redundant. So the next was the conversion into a barrel nipple from this nipple for the bottom. So a little bit of brass I turned up to fit nicely into the horseshoe, and I drilled into it 2.5mm for the cable, and then I opened it up halfway to suit this nipple. So it's actually turned out quite nice, and it fits in quite nice. And then paranoia with me. Everything's got to be over-engineered for a laugh. I thought front brake, you'd be putting quite a bit of force on that. So I've done away with this, and I've made another one out of steel. So I'm happier with steel, because there's no way anyone's gonna, with brute force and ignorance, you know, snap it. So now that is going to be in steel, so that's going to work, no problem. So the next was, I needed something to carry the cable and give me some form of adjustment on this M8 drilled and tapped section of the anchor for the cable. So I got a zinc plated M8 bolt, the appropriate length, and I drilled down the centre 2.5mm for the cable. I then drilled in a think it's 4.2 for this part, so it sits in there. Then I sliced my groove in it so that it goes over the cable and sits on there. So that's now going to give me that adjustment. A nut, obviously, because I need to lock it for the adjustment. So obviously, luckily, the nut does fit over the nipple, so we can wind that on there. And I did take the burrs off it, it's a bit tight. We just get a couple of spanners. And just spin that up a bit. Yeah, it's just where I've oh, there we go, just a little burr on the end. Thought I'd dressed it up, obviously not enough. So if I spin that down, so that now all should pass through the slot in there, and that should wind in. Nice, and it does. So let's get it in a bit, because I did measure the free length of the cable inner in respect of the outer, so we should be able to catch it with the adjustment between here and the adjuster on the ball-ended lever. Be helpful if I put it the right way up. Yeah, so that should slide in there. If I take the slack out of that. There we go. Yes. So so the route for this thing was inside. We're going to go inside the forks. Just spin that in. Yes. Take that out a bit. A bit more. A bit more. How are we looking? I might just take this up a bit here. The fine tuning we can do at any point, but I just wanted to prove that it was gonna, should be around there somewhere maybe. So the bolt was just a zinc plated or cadmium plated bolt. I was going to do it out of stainless, but to drill 2.5mm hole down the centre of it, could have done it, but not the easiest. Put a stainless nut on. But I could have gone berserk and gone stainless all the way, but you know, a lot of the other bolts are plated, they don't need to be stainless, so we should be fine. Obviously that's not a test, the test is when we're on the road. So I said that was going to be speedo was going to be on there, so I did have a P-clamp for this, so I could mount it on the back of the clamp for the bottom yoke. And I did, yes, I did have a little stainless P-clamp with a rubber protector on it. So if we just whiz that out, 2 seconds. And it shouldn't be that tight because you've got a, he said, he did tighten them up. Oh. So obviously these have all got to come off for the frame to be stripped back and painted. So these originally would have been 3/8 and they were quite manky and quite twisted. So what I've done is I've just, I don't know how many thou, 20 thou, 15 thou difference between M10 and 3/8. So I've just taken them out slightly to 3/8, to 10 mil, so I can put stainless steel M10s in there, so they look a bit tidier. So that should sit on there. Go inside the stop, so there's no chance of the cable getting caught anywhere. Not the easiest, I must admit. But it's got to be possible. In fact, this was an 8mm for an 8mm bolt, this P-clamp, and I've actually opened it up to 10. But you know what it's like drilling thin material, so I tried to run a 10mm. Well, I have managed to run a 10mm down it, but not the easiest of tasks because it snatches like mad, doesn't it? Thin material. So that should go on the far side of that, he said, like that. Yes, I love it when a plan comes together. It doesn't always. Yeah, that sits in there quite nicely. Just have to check it with the frames, the stops on the frame for the steering travel. Okay, I'm not going mad on that because it's got to come off. So that puts the cable there, and obviously the front mudguard is going to keep that off, but that is still going to allow the cable to move up and down with the suspension travel, so that's going to work. So a bit of fine tuning on the cable adjustments, nut for that to secure that. And I've got my S bend in here, so that's going to allow that cable to move up and down with the suspension, so that's going to work, isn't it? So the headlamp was the next, so I've left this one, it's not that tight, this one's fairly tight, but this one's slacked off so it can move back in two. And we said we're going to turn up the distance pieces. Wasn't as simple as I thought, because these are, the holes in here are 10 and the bolts are only M8. So I've got some stainless M8s, so they're going to sit like that, so the step is just slightly less than whatever the thickness of this thing is. So it's going to sit on there, and it should be quite simple, but nothing's simple as we know. So I did check the RM8s that are in there. So I'm going to keep the little nylon washers, because I think you can tighten up against those to give yourself some friction, but not enough friction that'll lock it solid, but enough so you can turn the headlamp up or down for the adjustment. So that in there, that through there, then our rubber or nylon or whatever it is bushing. Okay, so this should close into this, and it should all be lined up if my accurate measuring is good enough. So I'm keeping that washer, whatever material it is. Come on, baby, you can do it. Nice. So you can just move it, which is as it should be. And I don't need to because it's coming off, but I'll just nip the inside of that headlamp bracket up, and we'll just see what it looks like. Get the right Allen key, it might work. Better. And there we have it. Front end nearly done. I'm going for the original mudguard bracket and alley guards, so the guards are going to be quite high up, same as the later B25s and B50s. So that front end's going to work. But I'm sure I'm not tested. No reason why it shouldn't, but after all that, I need to just make sure that brake light switch is working, don't I? Just shove the meters on their own continuity, because the stop light and side light, rear side light, will have a permanent earth, so the switch will have a 12 volt feed, and hopefully when you pull the brake, the it'll send the onward signal to the brake light. So what have I got? The buzzer. If this doesn't work now, I'm going to go mad. Please. No? Yes! Don't know if you can hear that. It takes a fair bit of force before it comes on. Mind you, I'm down here stretching up, it's probably not really. Happy. So yeah, the front end now is done. Happy with that. So moving on, we looked at I had a choice of 3 tanks, 3 fuel tanks. The original Starfire tank, which I'm not over-hammered with. I mean, they're a massive tank. I don't know what the capacity is, but with a green laner, I think it's probably a tad too big, and I'm not really enamoured. I never was a fan of this shape, but it is a nice. The paintwork's not bad either, but I'll probably put that on eBay and get rid of it, because it is a steel tank, and obviously the fiberglass ones now with a 10% ethanol, you know, they need to be treated, and even then they're never right, are they? So there is a value to that, so that might go. I'll have a trip somewhere. Then the other was the Spitfire tank. Now this is a lovely tank. I can't remember where from. It's probably an Indian one because it's very heavy. It's Spitfire Special on it. But even though the frames are similar, with a similar bolt hole in the middle, the Starfire had a longer spine, and these have got these very wide tubes coming down, and the tank would have to be very far forward, getting close up to the neck, and you'd have to greatly reduce the steering stop angle. So even though that would look nice on the bike, it's not going to fit and it won't be right. So I've definitely now decided I'm going to stick with the Fleet Star tank. because we've got the cheeks cut away at the back to accommodate here. So I have offered it up and it's not too bad. I've made a rubber for the front. I had some tank rubbers. That one's actually a rear tank rubber. The front ones are quite big, the original Starfire ones. And this was, I've chopped it all up and ground it, but this was an oval with a strength piece across it, and it was actually like a Ford Fiesta or something exhaust support, you know, with the two arms, one that way, holding up the exhaust. So I've cut the middle out, ground it away, and I've shaved the sides down, so that now becomes the front, and that one will become the rear. So the other was, I ended up, it's obviously a shorter tank, quite a big gap between where the seat should be and the tank, gap of about that much. So I've had a bit of a play around with that. So what I've done is, I've actually made this thing. So this is just a bit of 8mm thick by 20 bar, drilled 10mm there and drilled for M8 on there, and that, instead of the bolt being in that position there, this goes in the back, and I can bring it like 25mm or an inch further back, so that brings the tank back, reducing the gap between the tank and the seat a tad. So the tank is definitely going to fit. So that ends up like that, and I've got the appropriate, just turned up a bit of a spacer. Yeah, that's right. Then that support washer. This is actually the one of an original, I can't remember what BSA it's off, but it was a double size to that. I've sliced it in half, and I've sliced the spacer in half. It's going to go that way up. And for the top, I did cut a piece of rubber. There it is. So for the top side of the tank, this is actually one of the headlight rubbers that if you had that silly wire frame arrangement, so they're like rubber mounted for the headlight, it's one of those with the flange cut off, and that would end up being the top, and obviously a washer and a nylock, and that's how the tank's going to fasten down. I did buy two of those, these buttons or whatever you call them, these things. So these go in here and rest the tanks of the inside of the cheeks of the tank, rest on them. They are a tad too wide. It probably would go with a bit of, put a bit of Vaseline on there or something, but I want to be able to, if you ever want to work on the bike, take things apart very quickly and very easily. So on the linisher, I'm going to take about 5mm off the height of both of these. Then the tank will just sit down nice and easy to put on and take off. So that's going to be the solution for the tank, and that's going to be the tank we're going to use. So we're now left with the seat. So I knew roughly where the seat should be because it had this manky old bracket on the bottom of the seat. So that originally would have been there. I couldn't find anything in the box for the front. I think it may have just been resting on the bike. So I needed to move the seat further forwards. So I've made another one of these, which is out of aluminium, bit of 3mm this time. And I've actually offset the drilling for the seat, so the seat will be further forward. So that, and what I've done with the rear shocks, obviously I said these are not the right shocks, these are off a Daytona, a later Daytona or Bonnie, but I've actually, everything's drilled out to M10, so I've got M10s in there. So what I did, I put longer bolts in, so these are secured and fixed, and then a washer, another washer, and then a nut, so that when you want to take the seat off, you're not having to slacken everything off. I can just undo the inside, slacken off the inside nuts. That would be that way around, wouldn't it? And that is how that's going to sit, and it would literally take a minute or less to whiz the seat off, because I plan to put the electrics in this area here on the inside of the tank above the battery. So that's going to do for the rear of the seat, but the front of the seat, I mean, they're nearly all similar design. I had a bit of channel bar, he said. So yeah, a bit of channel bar, cut it off to the appropriate, and I've actually drilled through and slotted. I haven't tried the seat on yet. I've slotted this as well to give me a bit of an adjustment, and that now so you offer the seat on, let it lock into there, you drop the back down and tighten up your two nuts. So that should work out quite nicely. But I haven't tried it yet, but there's no reason why it shouldn't. With a bit of adjustment, I have slotted things so that I've got a bit of lateral travel here and there. And the last thing that I'm going to be playing around with on the next vid is the chain guard. So I have the original chain guard, which apparently as rare as hen's teeth. And here it is. It's even got made in England on there. Someone's obviously was very proud of this bike at one point before it fell into disrepair. But I'm not really a fan of, I don't like the shape, and I wanted a bit of shine. So I've used these before. This is just rested in, by the way. I fitted these to C15s, Tiger Cubs, B50s. They're 20 odd quid, quite heavy metal, quite a heavy layup. It's probably crap chrome. These are obviously Royal Enfield or Royal Enfield, if you like, made in India. So heavy duty metal, but probably poor quality chrome, but shiny, nice. So there, I'm going to graft this into here somehow. Not as simple as the C15 or the B50 with the oiling frame, because the oiling frame, the mount for the bottom of the shock has got a hole on the inside which is threaded, and it actually picked up quite nicely on there. This thing's got two threaded holes here in the swing arm, so I'm going to have to make a bracket that comes up and curls round slightly and bolts on, and I'll think of something for the front as well, whatever. So that's going to go on there. So the next video will be tank, seat, chain guard, and then we can start to design a wiring diagram, as simple as possible wiring diagram. And even though the seat doesn't look too bad, there is a very small nick in it here. The rest of it's quite good, but in the box of bits that came with the bike, oh la la, pretty. Seat cover, it's got the hump, it's about the right length. I'm going to have to strip this off anyway to sand it down back to bare metal, prime and paint the pan underneath. So I've got to take it apart anyway, and if this fits, this is going on. I was thinking of putting a single seat on and making a single seat, but also in the box was this and this is one for a single seat. So we'll see how we go with that, but I think for the simplest bit we'll have this seat mounted, we'll build the bike, try it, and probably no one's ever going to sit on the back of it, but I just like that little flared hump on the back. So yeah. So that's it for today. Happy with what's going on. So lights, speedo bracket cable, front brake, all looking good. I made a few adjustments to the clutch cable, which I think I mentioned. I'm not sure, I mean it's supposed to be B25 cable, but didn't fit very well into the casing, but I've got it working nice. So we're getting closer. Oh, that was the other thing. I know I make a few bits and pieces on the lathe and all, like, you know, brackets and spacers and what have you. I don't normally include them in the videos because, you know, to me they're a bit boring because I'm used to machining and everything, but if anybody's interested to see any of these bits being made, just drop it in the comments, and the next time we turn something up we'll spin the camera round and we'll manufacture whatever it is we need to manufacture. So there we go folks, so we'll catch you on the next one.